Here we have a package from David coming from Texas. David sent us an H&S Mini Maxx diesel engine tuner. HDMI is badly broken on this device. Let me show you what I mean. It looks something like this. The problem is we are unable to find a similar HDMI port in the market that we can replace this with. I communicated with David and I told him that we are not able to get a similar HDMI port. And David looked on eBay and he was able to find a similar tuner that's bricked. It has a bad firmware. And we bought it so we can extract the HDMI port from the other tuner and put it on this one. So this is the one that we bought off eBay and we paid $100 for this. It was initially listed for $65 and the bid went up. I told David that maybe we should bid $100 maximum for this in case somebody bids on it, and there was about 5 bids on this tuner and we won for $100. The last bid was $99, so we won it by $1. We only bought this so we can extract the HDMI port from it and put it on this one. We're gonna be using low melt solder to remove the connector. Once it's removed, then we're gonna solder it back on David's tuner. Let's take them apart and see what's going on. And that's the HDMI port. The port looks in a good condition. That's great. Looks very good actually, mint. We're gonna have to remove this port. And we have one screw here. The screen is probably glued onto the board. NorthridgeFix? Yes, that's it.
Spectra?
Yes,
The charging port?
Charging port on which one? Which device?
HP Spectra.
I'm going to remove the LCD so we can have access to the board and remove the HDMI port. Let's take this one apart as well. And just a minute. Hello, how are you?
Okay, how are you?
Okay. Okay, so we took both boards out. Let's start by removing the good HDMI port. And we're going to be very careful with this because we paid $100 for this donor device. So we're going to remove this HDMI port without damaging any of the pins. Let's take a look at the back here. The port is soldered on. Looks like it's soldered on from here. So to do this as safely as possible, we're going to be using low melt solder. We're going to apply flux here, here, and here. Okay, so I applied flux to all 3 areas, all 3 legs of the HDMI port. So as you can see, a little bit of low melt solder goes a long way. We're gonna flip the board and we're gonna do the same thing to the front pins. I mean, look at this. As soon as we apply low melt solder onto those pins, they're already loose. NorthridgeFix. Okay. Almost. Perfect. Perfect. We lowered down the melting temperature of unleaded solder that's on the board, and with a little bit of heat we were able to pry that connector off the board. I was not applying heat onto the connector but onto the board. The board got hot, it liquefied the solder, low melt solder, and I was able to safely remove that HDMI connector. And look at this, solder is still soft. It stays soft for a few seconds, it depends on how much heat you're applying. But because solder stays soft on all the joints, then we can remove the whole connector at once. Now, look at this, it's still soft, still soft. Let's put it on the side and remove the port from David's board. We're gonna do the same here, apply low melt solder onto the back of the board, and then we're gonna do the same to the front. Let's flip the board. I mean, we cannot even see those pins. It's bent to a point where we cannot even see the pins. Right there. I still have low melt solder on the tip, so we're gonna use that to apply it onto the pins. We do not care about this HDMI connector, so even if it gets damaged, that's okay. You may be wondering, why don't we use hot air to remove this port? We do not care about this port anyway, even if it gets damaged. While that's true, I want to do this as safely as possible. I do not want to apply a lot of heat onto that board. It's an expensive device. Okay, so now we're gonna use our hot air station at 350 degrees. Just a moment. Be right there. Okay, so let's remove that port. Okay. Let's go under the microscope. We're gonna clean the pads, clean the holes, and solder back the HDMI connector. I'm gonna use a slightly bigger tip. I keep talking about this flux. Look at how nicely it cleans off the board. Now we're going to use the HDMI port that we removed from the donor device. Just like that. Let's clean up some of that low melt solder before we apply leaded solder. Okay, that's good enough. Now I'm going to pre-apply solder onto the soldering iron tip. We're going to hold the connector down and start soldering the front pins. I just want to hold this connector in place so we can go to the back and solder the legs. So we're going to push down on the connector and let's apply solder right over here. And the same here. Flip the board and solder the back. Very nice. Joints are nice and shiny. And we're gonna finish off by going through those pins again. Package and ship this back to David. We're going to inspect the pins to make sure everything is good. We want all the pins to be solid. Solid, solid. And excellent. We do not have any pins here. Excellent. One more time. Everything is solid. And the back is already cleaned. Okay, and the job is beautiful. We did this as safely as possible. Thanks to good flux, low melt solder, good tools, and of course, good hands. How can I forget? And that's it for this video. I'm gonna reassemble this. It's fairly easy. We connect the screen, one screw, and we just close the back and front casing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll do something else in the next video.